Hi everybody, to start today I'd like you don't have to sketch this graph, but I would just like you to write down the situation that would explain this student's day. Just so you know, when we do videos like this, I'd like you to just go ahead and pause. So I'm not sitting here for 10 minutes waiting for you guys to do stuff. So what I would like you to do is up in the warm-up section, after I'm done talking about this, hit pause and then write down your situation. And when you're done with that, go ahead and hit play and then we can continue on. So hopefully your story, remember these transition points like right here are the important things. So like something is happening in this section here, something's happening here. So your story should hopefully have something about your student going to class and being on the first floor, periods 1 and 2. And if you want to say classes, that's fine. So, he had Mr. Hayes for math first hour. Second hour, he had computer design. And he or she went up to the second floor. For third hour, maybe he had drama with Mr. Begovich. Fourth period, he had to go up to his Spanish class. But then he had lunch fifth period because that's why they were up on the third floor, and they came back down, went back up to the third floor. And then had like chemistry 7, 8. And then period 9, period at 10 had gym class and something else, maybe foods. Oh no, social studies. I'm missing history. How can I miss history? But that's the type of thing that I'm looking for in that. Okay, and we'll finish some more of this up as we go again over the course. We're going to get into some more specifics about graphs today. And for your topic and objective, we're going to talk about something called domain and range. I'm going to zoom in just a touch. So the topic is domain and range. And the essential question is, how do I find the domain and range from a graph? Now, you may be asking, what is domain and range? And by the end of this will be clear so that you guys will understand what's going on. So go ahead and take a second, pause, and write that down. So my first question for you is this. How far to the left is the graph that we see over here? How far to the right does the graph go? And again, remember low and high. And again, just to double check a couple of things, make sure that you have your axes labeled. I know you're wondering why I didn't do that. So x and y is going to be, x is, remember positives over here, negatives to the left. So maybe you put a 4 here. So positives to the right. And then we go up this direction here. So that would also be a 4. And then negatives left and out. So if you've paused it or if you've written down your answers, and again, this is all in your, the graphs in your notes, you'll have to write the rest. Oops, wrong one. I want to do this. Sorry, I'll edit that out when I have time at some point. Come on, there we go. So to the left, it goes over here to 2. Okay, how far to the right does it go? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it goes over to 7. How low does it go? The lowest part of this graph is right there. It's going to be a 1. And the highest part is a 6. And so in a lot of ways, what we're basically doing is putting this in a box. We're saying, how far to the right, how far to the left, how high, how low does that go? So the furthest to the left is a 2, the furthest to the right is a 7, the lowest it goes is a 1, the highest it goes is a 6. But Mr. Hayes, where's the phrase domain and range? We will get there. Okay, same question on this one. How far to take a second, write down how far to the left it goes, how far to the right it goes, and give yourselves, before I forget, a little bit of room. Actually, you can also do this on the question section, but give yourself a little bit of room as we're going to come back to each of these as well. So now here, we've kind of got this box going around here. The box is running, we're confining all of it. I really should get a box with actual corners. How about that one? There we go. So if we've got this box over here, it starts down here in the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to have to do it this way. So it goes about that far, and then in terms of the down, it covers like right about that. So that covers everything that's in the graph. The points are a little bit bigger than what we need, but you get the idea. And so here, over to the left, it goes as far left as 0. And it goes as far as to the right as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Low, it goes all the way down to 0. And high, it goes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the big question here to ask yourself is this. Does it really reach 7? We've got an open circle here, just like we did with inequalities. So we actually should probably write something like just less than 7. And over here for the 0, actually for this far to the right, it's the same thing. That's the furthest right, so this up here, let's change this to say less than 5. All right, and we'll come back to that one. Don't worry. Same idea, how far to the left, how far to the right, how low, how high. Pause it, come up with an answer, we'll come back. All right, so here, I'm trying to grab my highlighter here, sorry. So if I kind of put this in a box so that all of it's contained, it would reach right about here. Okay, so how far to the left did you write down? To the left, it's going over -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. And now this one's we don't have to worry about the less than or equal to because all the dots on the ends are solid. How far to the right does this go? 1, 2, 3. How far low does it go? So again, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. And how high does it go? You should have -1. Now notice, this is going to be something that sometimes people have a hard time with. We're talking about how low and how high. We're not talking about how high or high-low the endpoints from left to right are. We're talking about as I follow the graph, how high or high-low is the ultimate, ultimately how low does this go, ultimately how high does this go. All right, I think we've got one more graph to do. Again, pause it, answer the questions, and hit play so we can double check things. Too far. I need my arrow key. So this one here, you're going to start up here, and then we'll stretch out a bit. We get that. So when I say how far to the left goes, now notice we've got an open circle here. So we've got -1, -2, -3, -4. But I want numbers bigger than -4 because -4 isn't actually part of the answer. Why do I know that? Because of the open circle. And the same thing's going to happen over here on the right, except this can then you'd be less than -1, -2, -3, -4, 5. How low does this go? This goes down here to -2. How high does it go? So again, now here there's the interesting thing. And again, for lowness, it's how low this whole graph goes. I don't care where it starts or where it stops, not how high those are. I want to know over the course of the graph, how low does this thing end up? And then in terms of height, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But again, open circle, so that's not quite included. So I'm going to say less than 5. Okay? So now the big question is, all right, let's come back here. And we're going to go back and hit those 4. But I want to define domain and range for you right now. Domain and range are the following. Domain is a list of all possible x values, or inputs. Let's start with that. Inputs are always on your x-axis that will work for, let's say it this way, a list of all possible x inputs that are usable in a graph. We'll start with that. We'll define it a little bit more as we go, but got that. So domain is, okay, so what does that mean? So in real language, leftmost point to the rightmost. Now the cool thing is about range, it's the exact same thing, except range runs up and down. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. And again, pause where you need to. Because it's going to be all the list possible outputs. And so it's going to be the y values. And so this is going to run from the lowest point to the highest point. Now again, we're going to define these a little bit more as we go, because this is just what we're doing for graphs. But this should at least get you started. Now we're going to go back and hit all 4 graphs again, but we're going to talk about what the domain is and what the range is, and how we write that so we can look like intelligent math people. Just looking intelligent, there's nothing to be ashamed about that. All right, so now we're back at the first one. And I'm going to change this. I want to get that highlighter thing in there again. So I need to grab one. Mr. Hayes, you're the worst blogger ever. Yeah, well, probably a bad YouTuber too, to be honest. Which reminds me, be sure to like and subscribe. Turn on that little bell for all notifications of new videos. Anyway, so we've got this. So when I'm looking for domain, I'm going to put it. So for domain, and sometimes I'll just write down D. We're going to look for how far to the left does this graph go? It goes from, starts at 2. Is 2 included? Yes. I'm going to say 2. Sorry, I had to get to the right things. I'm going to say 2, and then less than or equal to. And now we're going to say x. And it goes all the way up to 7, remember, so then we're going to say, okay, less than or equal to 7. Ta-da! Not bad, right? Lowest point to the highest point. What variable are we using? That's in the middle, x. So for range, same idea, and we've already kind of done the work. So let's, face it. That's nice. So it goes down. What's the lowest point on it? It's 1. 1 is included, so we can do that. Y. We go up as high as 6, and 6 is included, so I'm going to use less than or equal to 6. I'm just trying to move you, sir. That's all. And the other point here, I just want to point out, is it's always written from lowest to highest. In fact, I'm going to bold that because that seems important. There we go. Okay, pause, replay if you need to. Let's check the next one. So on this one here, domain. Get my equation in here. So how far to the left does this graph go? It starts at 0, so I'm going to put in 0. 0 is included, so I'm going to say less than or equal to. We're talking about domain, so that's left to right. That's my x-axis. How far to the right does it go? Now, we already said it doesn't include 5, as I have this open circle here, so then I'm just going to say less than 5. But seriously, a lot of people, if you can't see it, drawing a box, and it has to be a rectangle or square, and it has to be oriented so that you can include it like this, helps a lot of people come up with this. For range, I guess I'm going to try it that way. So how low does this go? The lowest is 0, and that is included, so I'm going to say less than or equal to y. And again, we have less than 7, so we're going to include less than 7. Boom, done. Bob's your uncle. Oops. Just trying to even these out. Sorry. Okay, try the next one on your own. So try to figure out what the domain, how to write the domain, and write the range. So pause it, write it out, and then we'll come back and talk. Hey, welcome back. I knew you'd come back. So your domain here, I'm going to guess you got right. If I had to guess if you got 1 right and 1 wrong, domain, I'm going to guess you're going to say, okay, that's going to be 6 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 3. Come on, I want a 3. There we go. All right? Now, why do I say that? I say that because of this. If you had a range and it was wrong, you probably put down like -4 to -4. But again, remember, we have low to high here. Um, and so we want the lowest point that the graph travels. And the lowest point that, if you're drawing a pencil across this, the lowest point your pencil would reach would be that -6. So we have -6. I take that back. Yeah, that's still -6. I had them matching. Sorry. Is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to, how high does this go? -1. And that's your range. Ta-da! I know. Shock. Try the last one. So we've got domain. Ooh, that's fancy. Guess I'm doing it in equations. All right, so for my domain, I'm going to go as low as -4. So -4 is my lowest point. Now notice it's open circle, so that means that it can't include that. So I'm going to say less than x. It goes all the way up to 5, but doesn't touch 5, so I'm going to say is greater than 5. All good, right? Now again, remember, for your range, it goes down as low as -2. And goes up as far as, now 2 is included, okay, and the question here is 2 included or not? I am fine if it's hitting like this, that you can say, okay, that's going to be less than or equal to -2. Some people can say, how do you know that for sure? And if you put just less than, I wouldn't be totally upset. How high does this go? It doesn't start here, it starts up here. So again, as we said earlier, that's at 5, but since it's not as an open circle, it's going to be not included. Look at that. So now that we kind of know how that works, one last thing for a domain. A range, sorry, I did go too fast. Remember, you can pause and rewind. So down here, the thing to remember here is this. Okay, I'm always going to be able to write it from the lowest. And we're going to have some sort of inequality. So you know what? I'm going to fill this in a second. Okay, I had to use my sick drawing skills there. You can kind of do a default thing like this. You can have your left boundary, and then you're going to either have a less than or equal to sign. You're going to put the letter x in. Do another less than or equal to sign. You're going to do the right boundary. And for range, you'll have a similar sort of thing. So you're going to go from the bottom boundary. You're going to have less than or equal to. Oops. Change it to a y. And then less than or equal to the top boundary. Okay? So that should put you set. Take a second, write out something in the summary in terms of how best to figure out how to do domain and range, and then you'll have a couple problems to work on, and then you should be good for the weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.